Prime Minister Bruce Golding is cautiously optimistic that the Green Paper on tax reform to be discussed in Parliament this month will get bipartisan support. However, the Prime Minister, who was answering my question on the matter at a PricewaterhouseCoopers seminar on tax reform, is hoping for broader support.
There may be issues to do with some of the specifics. I would like to hope that we would be able to resolve those. But quite frankly, this is something that requires more than just parliamentary consensus. And therefore the debate really has to be one in which both sides of Parliament are engaged with the stakeholders, with the wider constituency of people, to try to determine what is best for Jamaica. Where we could probably run into some difficulties is where it touches the political cone, particularly where it has to do with the impact on people. One of the things that I'm hoping for, and it's been mooted in the Green Paper, is that we would be able to in fact reduce some of the taxes, like the consumption tax, in order to provide not just relief, but really to provide more spend among that group of persons. But that will depend on whether or not we can derive the necessary revenue space through other adjustments to enable us to do that. The discussions are going to start in earnest. I'm going to have discussions with Minister Shaw over the weekend, because perhaps it's necessary for him to touch base with Peter Phillips. He may sort of have a sense of where Omar's head might be at, but he perhaps needs to sit with Peter Phillips to see what the thinking is, before we actually start talking across the floor at each other.
The Prime Minister made clear what he expected the outcome of deliberations on tax reform to be.
An appropriate tax structure, one that levels the playing field where it needs to be leveled, while compensating for systemic disadvantages where those disadvantages exist, is what must be the outcome of these deliberations, and indeed of your seminar today. I urge you, in undertaking these deliberations, I urge you to be conscious of the imperatives that face us.
The September 2 PricewaterhouseCoopers seminar, entitled Carving a Path for Jamaica's Tax Reform, saw contributions from several persons, including PwC's Brian Denning, who urged all sectors to get engaged in the debate over tax reform.
What we have seen, the Green Paper has been out for some time, and it has been covered in the media, and certain stakeholders have articulated their views. And I have been involved in a lot of meetings since the Green Paper has come out in discussing it and also a range of measures. And what I have said, and something that I articulated in an article recently, that I am concerned, and the Prime Minister has also mentioned it in his keynote address, that he's not seen the level of robust debate. And part of the reason is because I think people are not seeing what's in the Green Paper that might affect them, but also not realising that the role of the Green Paper is not setting out an exhaustive list of what's on the table. It's there to stimulate debate. And in fact, there are a range of other issues that are coming on the table. And if you're not at the table as part of these discussions, you could be adversely affected. So my main message to you, if you forget everything else I say, is to look carefully at the issue of tax reform.
The Green Paper suggests the implementation of tax reform in 3 phases.
First of all, tackling indirect taxes, and that includes customs, GCT, special consumption tax, and so on. Second phase, to address corporate income taxes, and then also personal income taxes. And then finally, the third phase is suggested to address payroll taxes. Now, this is not absolutely set in stone, because you'll see that already some reforms have been implemented in these areas. But that is the general message in the Green Paper, is that this is going to be implemented on a phased basis.
On the matter of reform of indirect taxation, Mr. Denning mentioned, for example, challenges associated with any changes in Jamaica's tariff regime.
That tariff regime is also constrained by the common external tariff, which is again setting minimum tariff rates for goods imported into the Caribbean community. And in fact, if we want to adjust those rates, we need to get approval at the CARICOM level. And that actually has represented one of the challenges in reforming our customs regime. We do, however, have relief for certain sectors, in relief for customs duty given to, for example, tourism and manufacturing and agriculture. And also then on top of that, because our tax system doesn't give relief to a range of other activities, in order to incentivize those activities to occur, over the years we have overlaid a lot of our statutory incentives with a plethora of ministerial waivers of customs as well. The overall perception is that the system is very complex. There is issues of inefficiency, and I think we all know there are also issues of corruption and challenges in terms of the port, in terms of goods coming through not being appropriately customed. In 2009-10, this is a number from the IDB, import duties were 3.7% of the value of goods imported. And when you actually look at the tariff codes in terms of the value of goods coming through, the tariff codes, the goods of 20% or less, generate the highest yields of taxation, although we do have tariff codes up to 100%. Now, where should we be going? What has been proposed by the Green Paper? Well, first of all, before I go into the Green Paper, just want to mention that the 2004 Matalon report had indicated a preference for a unified statutory rate with the collected rate. And this is something that the Prime Minister mentioned this morning in his keynote address. That figure is somewhere between 5 and 10%, depending on how you look at it. And of course, one of the challenges is that if you just take the value of goods imported, the overall value, you can get quite a low rate. But by the time you take out things like government, charities, petroleum products, and so on, it's quite a different number. So it's not such a straightforward exercise as it might seem. And also, as I said, I think the whole issue of the CARICOM common external tariff and our obligations under that represent a hurdle in terms of trying to we can't just overnight, if we want, even if we all agreed, we couldn't just overnight say, let's just make the customs duty rate a flat 5% across the board. We just couldn't do that. We have obligations under the common external tariff, so we'd have to address that and negotiate our way, in a sense, out of that.
That's just a sample of what was discussed at PwC's seminar on tax reform. There are several issues which impact on every man, woman, and child in Jamaica. We hope to bring you more in coming weeks. In the meantime, get engaged in the debate. For your wealth, I'm Owen James.